Election nights offer more than just a running tally of votes. When the dust settles, the results reveal the actual cultural and political mood of the nation. Behind the headlines, these outcomes show us which ideologies are gaining traction and which ones the electorate is actively rejecting. We can see this realignment in the recent defeat of a high-profile candidate from the Democratic Socialists of America. In episode 2578 of The Dan Bongino Show, this specific loss was analyzed not just as a local failure, but as a strategic opening for conservatives, a gift hidden within the results. The outcome signals a shift toward practical, everyday governance and away from ideological extremes. When political messaging detaches from kitchen table realities like inflation and energy costs and community safety, voters use the ballot box as a blunt instrument of accountability. This massive disconnect creates a strategic opening. By failing to address the immediate concerns of the working class, a local campaign provides its opponents with a narrative that can be used to challenge the movement on a much larger scale. The problem begins with a mismatch between a far-left platform and the actual demands of independent voters. While activists push for radical institutional restructuring, the broader electorate looks for solutions to economic stability and law enforcement. Campaigns prioritizing radical policy over local improvements struggle to retain moderate voters. This leads to swift pushback at the polls, even in competitive areas. The defeat also triggers internal friction. Pragmatic strategists often argue that these radical platforms hurt candidates further down the ballot, while activists claim the message wasn't bold enough. This divide leaves the movement paralyzed. Without a consensus on how to move forward, the party remains exposed, unable to effectively course-correct before the next cycle. For conservative opponents, this internal collapse is a significant strategic advantage. The previous narrative suggested hard left policies were an inevitable trend, but post-election reality shows a clear preference for pragmatic policy. Opponents capitalized by anchoring messaging to economic stability and public safety. The losing campaign's extreme rhetoric provides clear contrast points for the opposition. By doubling down on policies that alienate the average citizen, a movement effectively hands its rivals a victory they didn't have to work to earn. A party doesn't always need to invent a new platform to win. Often, they simply need to wait for their rivals to alienate the center. This highlights the divide between media forecasts and the actual sentiment of working-class communities. Social media virality can create an illusion of support, but that energy rarely translates into votes if the messaging doesn't resonate with families focused on personal stability. Ultimately, the center still decides elections. Charisma is no substitute for solutions. Extreme platforms create immediate vulnerabilities among suburban and independent voters who prioritize common-sense administration over political performance. When voters deliver a clear rejection of ideological overreach, it reshapes the strategic board for everyone involved. For those paying attention, such a defeat is more than a loss. It is an invaluable political gain.